Welcome back, my nomads. Welcome back to another Bitcast. I'm back here with Zach. What's going on, Zach?
1 month and 2 days.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a minute, man. Had a lot of life stuff going on, but we're back in business. New studio, new
As
everything.
everyone knows, we're on his schedule because, he's the only one busy.
You're busy too. You're a busy man. You like to act like you're not.
Yeah, I try not to be, but it's kind of hard.
It's
But
a
we got
devil.
lots of good stuff we could talk about within the last month, but I figured we're just going to talk about the stuff in the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I feel
Because
like
there's
there's
lots
gonna
of good
be.
stuff.
I feel like yes, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, but there's one big thing that we're going to talk about,
Yeah, I already
and
know. You want to do that first?
if you want to do it first, that'll we could do it first. We could do it first.
But let's limit it to 10 minutes because we already know you're just going to spiral and it just turns into this whole thing and she's not worth it.
You're right. You're right. All right.
Get the elephant, just get the monkey off your back.
So apparently, Kathleen Kennedy. This was maybe like 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Announced there was a an article announcing that Kathleen Kennedy was finally leaving Lucasfilm. Everybody online, all the people I follow, everybody's like, "Yeah, let's go. She's gone. Let's go." Then she comes out and she's like, "Nah, son. Nah. I'm inevitable. I'm eternity. I can never be extinguished." Um, she basically came out and says, "I'm staying. I'm staying," and she
It
basically
reminds me of
says,
the Wolf of Wall Street. Remember, he was like, when he was forced to like quit because the feds were breathing out his neck, and he was like, you know what, I'm staying. It's that same exact thing, right?
"It's like I ain't going nowhere. I ain't going nowhere." But that's what she said. She's basically saying that she put out a cryptic message, right? She said, "I am not leaving. I will never stop making films." Basically, what she said, and but she also said that she is looking for a replacement. So in my head, I'm thinking you are leaving. It's just not now.
No, it's at the end of the
And
year, so she's finding a successor for
yeah,
that because
successor.
she's spoken to the board already that her plans to retire by the end of 2025, which I think it's I mean, here's the thing, right? Like this is the main issue with it. Her damage is going to be felt for a few more years because all the stuff that's in production now is going to be released then, in a few more years. You know what I mean? So
Right.
we're not going to have any kind of positive change, even if the successor is amazing for a while,
Hmm.
right?
I agree. Um, especially especially if she is picking the successor, which she is. She's going to make sure that the successor is going to continue her legacy and not necessarily George's legacy. Um, I don't know what it is, but it seems like Kathleen Kennedy has a axe to grind with Star Wars fans and George Lucas himself. Everything she told Lucas she would do, she lied. She said she would stick to the material. She would stick for the sequel trilogy. She was going to stick to his scripts. She did none of that. We now know we we now know that George was working on episode 7, and midway or during pre-production for whatever reason he decided to retire and sell to Disney. But part of the agreement was they would
Do you
follow
blame him?
his no, I mean, even though he wasn't that old, what was he, in his 50s, 60s?
When he
Um,
sold it, no, he was already in his late 60s at that point, right? Mid late 60s. So it was at. I mean,
well,
he
when you're
made a.
that old and you made that money, why
It's
not?
a lot of money, dude. Like, he was already a billionaire and he added more to it. Like, that's a lot of money.
Can can I let me just say I've given George Lucas a lot of flack over the years for his poor writing, of the prequels and questionable decisions for the prequels, but they still are good for what they are. Um I commend him for hanging it up when he did. Unlike some of these directors out here who are pushing 70, 80, 90, who are just putting out slop after slop, who are clearly going senile, who just need to hang it up. And I'm sure you can think of one already who I'm talking about. But
Yes.
some of these directors need to know when it's time to step down. Maybe just be a consultant or something like that. And George, he knew his time was up. He was even in the middle of production with Seven and decided to just, you know what? Maybe he was like, yo, I'm not built for this anymore. This is a young man's game or something, because you don't sleep. That's, you know, depending on the movie or the franchise, that's like 3 to like 7, 10 years of your life.
He made $4 billion himself from the sale of Lucasfilms
And
in
that's the sale. That's not
2012.
including before the sale of
No, so
Lucasfilm.
I'll give you a breakdown of like Lucasfilms as a whole. Right? You ready?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Star Wars toys generated $100 million in sales after the first film alone. By 2009, the toys had generated $12 in total revenue, and the licensure, just to worth the licensure with Hasbro, was worth $3 by itself.
I
Star
mean,
Wars
his
earned so
contract for the toys was crazy. That's how he got so
three
rich.
and a half. Well, he got rich from his studio effects.
Oh
That's how
yeah,
he really
yeah,
got a
true.
lot of his money, THX, because that was like huge with the 4K well, the beginning of the 4K stuff, right?
Well, the
So,
merchandise was what gave him that money, though,
oh
for
yeah,
real.
it was insane. 3.5 billion total revenue the Star Wars earns when he owned it. 4 billion
Hmm.
in DVD and VHS sales. 3 billion
Mm.
in video games. 2 billion
Mm.
in books, and
Jesus,
1.3 through various licensing on other stuff.
damn. At
So
this
I
point,
feel
he
like
could
Disney.
make his own Star Wars park.
I feel
Disney
like
messed up.
Disney actually made out with that because they sold it for 4 billion, and he had all of that. Like, here's the thing, right? Whatever your revenue is, you usually 10x it in terms of companies to actually to sell it, right? That's usually what it is. So he could have sold it for 40, and he sold it for four.
Yeah,
So that was actually a really good deal. 2.2 was in cash. The rest of it was Disney stock, which was pretty good at the time because Disney was doing really well. It's kind of stagnated the last 7 years, but I mean,
yeah. By
look, dude,
like
he's worth $6 billion.
2014, 2015.
He was worth
I
two
mean,
billion before he sold it.
I feel like that lets me know, like you said, he sold it kind of low. That makes me feel like because he was in the middle of production on Seven and he just decided to sell, maybe something was wrong health wise, or
Or
he just
he just
realized,
wants to give up. He's a, how he is. He's a look. He's a
yeah,
religious person, right? And he wants to live
he's a
his.
recluse a little bit too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
Mm.
but I mean, he still makes money from it. Still, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he
It's not
does.
like he doesn't. So,
Which is why he
he,
retracted his critique of Disney, and what they were doing with the films. They was like, here's a couple mil, just be quiet, man. Just
dude,
nod your head
he's
and agree. He's like,
made.
okay.
Let's be real. Like, just think of any movie franchise. This is probably the most recognizable movie franchise on the planet,
Yeah. Mm.
right? Would you
Yeah.
say? You could go out
Yes.
in the middle of South America, which Ewan McGregor has done, and people know who he is because of
Right.
Star Wars.
He's Space Jesus.
But look, here's the thing. I'm glad she's finally learned her lesson. Like, look, she's done it her way for so long. People don't want it, and it's it's shown on a lot of different ways other than just money.
Right.
It's just like it's time. Like at some point, your vanity and you just making a hit, going off with the bang, that's not realistic when you want to do it the way that you want to do it. Now, the issue that me and you've talked about, right? About what is the successor is. We don't even know who it is. We don't even have an idea who it could be. What if it's just a Kathleen Kennedy 2.0?
That's my fear. I was watching, I think it was The Critical Drinker, and he was talking about Carrie Beck might be in the running, and apparently that's a problem. Apparently, there's rumors that Leslie Headling or whatever was in talks to be the next head of Lucasfilm, and I'm like, are you kidding me? That has to be a rumor. That has to be something somebody made up, because I refuse to believe that, that
Yeah,
the chick who made the acolyte, who still
there's
thinks
no
it was the
way.
greatest thing on the planet.
There's no
I'm
way
like,
that's
no,
not true. I feel like sometimes you just there's just stuff thrown out there just to see how people feel, and it's like, no, there's no way. Like
there's no way.
you can't have a CEO of a company where the only project and something something in the portfolio for your company has been such a bomb that you're going to just have them run everything else, because you got to think of it. You're not just making the movie aspect of it, dude. It's the toys. It's the it's
Yes.
the park. It's the video games. It's all of these things that you got to be in control of now, right?
Yep.
Like the buck ends with you, and that's not. How can you do that when one person themselves made the company lose anywhere from 200 to 400 million dollars on a TV show? Right?
Jeez,
That I
bro.
mean, that was an expensive
I
show.
mean, it costs like they said like 600 million, and I'm like, where's the money? I didn't watch it. I just watched clips. I'm like, I
Tons.
don't see where the
It's tons
money
of
went.
CGI. I mean, you know how it is, right? Like a lot of these people that handle this stuff, they overinflate their value on their services, and it ends up like just it's like government expenditure, right? Like the military will
I
spend
mean,
$600 for like a bag of trash bags, right? Like a box of trash bags you get at Costco, it's $600. It's the same thing. It's just like waste,
but they
on labor.
but that still doesn't explain 600. They must have shot some stuff and then reshot a bunch of stuff and then try to fix it in
How much is
post with
marketing
VFX.
typically, right? It's double of what
Oh yeah,
production
they
is.
marketed the shit out of that. True, true. They did market the shit out of the Acolyte. That was like the
They
most
did.
marketed
I think
Disney
that was the most.
Star Wars show.
I think it was one of the most marketed Disney things I've ever seen.
Yeah, bro. They put everything behind that, bro. Like craziness, man. It was getting to the point where it was annoying. Everywhere I went, I'm like, dude, come on, man. The Acolyte, and it was one of those shows where when it was first announced, I was excited and looking forward to it, and then you see the trailer and you're like, oh, I don't know how to feel about this. So you go to your trusted reviewers and you're like, oh, yeah, that's the okay, okay, all right.
How many people who are like Star Wars influencers even came out and said it was just hot garbage?
I literally heard people just say, okay, I'm done with the franchise, and walked away from Star Wars.
Oh, I
That's how
felt
bad
that
it
way
was.
beforehand, and that just kind of added to it when I saw where it was heading and where it was going with it, right? As soon as the story came out, you saw who it was, you're like, oh, these are red flags, right? Like,
Right.
why even entertain it? And it's worse than you can imagine with it, and, leaving it unwatched, I think, is a better move.
Yeah, man. Because I don't want to lose Star Wars, I'm just going to, continue to look into the old stuff. The stuff that brings me joy, like even the prequels. The prequels, the originals, Andor, Rogue One, stuff like that. Because this, I don't know what's going on with Star Wars. Like I said, it seems like Kathleen Kennedy is purposely doing it. There's no way. I mean, she's been in power since what, 2013, 2014. We're going on
Since they
over a
were
decade.
purchased.
Yeah, so I'm like, how is she still in charge? She has to have so many skeletons from other people's closets. Like she gotta know so many
Usually, when you
things.
have CEOs who don't perform this well, like they get yanked. But I think for
Yeah,
some reason there's just a. I mean, you even had this with Disney. Like, how many CEOs? I mean, you had Iger, and then the most recent one, I forget his name
Chapek,
already. Yeah,
Bob,
yeah.
Bob
Bob Chapek, yeah,
Chapek. Yeah,
and
something like
and
that.
then you have Iger back, but Iger's not doing a great job of what he did
No,
either, right?
Iger's not even doing anything. It's almost like he was just there name just for his name or something. Like
I
what
mean,
is
he was
going on,
thinking. I
man?
mean, he retired. He floated around. I mean, there was like rumors that he was thinking to run for president or office, but you
No.
can't do that when you have this flailing mess.
No, you can't, bro.
All
And
right, let's move
I don't
on.
know what.
We already
Yeah,
know this
yeah.
is. We could keep going on, so let's move on from this.
I will say, even if it's Filoni, I lost my faith in him after Acolyte and um Ahsoka. So I don't think it would
Yep.
be a good idea to put
But
him there.
how do you feel about quickly? How do you feel about Ray Stevens' replacement?
I think it's alright.
I like it too.
I think it's a good
Let's
pick.
just see if
It's a
things
good pick.
change with it, right? Well, we'll see. There's a lot of things that could be done. That the casting wasn't great with it, but there's a we'll see. I know, you know what? That's funny. I wanted to talk about Amazon and Bond with you, right? So, as you
Mm.
already know, it's been rumored that Chris Nolan was going to be like the guy doing this, but it's been confirmed, he is the number one choice for this.
I mean, let's be honest. His style fits for Bond
Well, it's a
if he
different
does it
Bond that
linear.
hasn't been made, right? Like, it could be done, like, it's not like the character Bond can't be good with his style of movie making. I think it would be great. It would be new, it would be edgy, and it would be a thriller pretty much, right? Like, it's not going to be like some guy who it's not going to be entirely about some guy who just punches dudes and like sleeps with other guys' wives and stuff.
Well, like yeah, if he shoots it linear and not all this fugaziness of messing up timelines, his style
He
could
can
go
do
there. Like,
that, but the thing is, it's already established. It's established franchise. This is not something he's making new out of his like brainchild of his, right? This is
I mean,
something
look at
that
Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy.
exactly that was established because it was something that comics, other movies, and other stuff, right? So he did a great job with that. That was so we know he can do that, right? Once he starts getting into other stuff, like that's a different story.
Question
But
is, does he want to do it?
well, he's busy with the Odyssey now. But I mean, he's done multiple movies at once. He's done that.
Yeah, I just feel like he's at a stage in his career where he's like, I only want to do what I want to do. I don't want to do anybody else's IP. I don't want anybody telling me what I can and can't do. I don't. I feel like he's like, if I'm
Well,
doing
James
Bond, I'm
Bond's
doing Bond
different.
my
That's
way.
like that's such an. I mean, that's like the holy grail of British movie making, right? Like that's the movie you
Yeah.
want to be a part of because that's like that defines you. That shows that you got to the top of your industry in England for getting into a Bond thing.
But he's. It seems like he's gotten even more stubborn over the years, and he just does. Imagine someone telling him you can't do that with Bond because that's not Bond. Now, to be fair, the Broccoli's are no longer in control of Bond, and they're the ones who protected the legacy of Bond by saying yay or nay to certain things with Bond. And now Amazon Let's not forget about Rings of Power. Amazon, the makers of Rings of Power, are now in control of Bond. So you
But
know what that
Amazon
says to
does good
me?
stuff too.
See, if Amazon goes in the wake of their like the joke is like Amazon has made franchises out of books like guy books in airports, like Reacher, Bosch. You know, if Amazon goes into that direction with
Didn't
Bond,
they do? Didn't they
it'd
do
be
the
fine.
what's that Chris Pratt one with the Navy
Terminal
SEAL
list,
writer? Terminal List. If it goes along that route, it'll be fine.
but I don't see it going in that route. I see
Well, you don't know.
Amazon.
See, Amazon doesn't interfere as much as you think, right? Like the problem is that they hired the wrong people. Whoever they had in charge hiring for Rings of Power, they put the wrong people in there. But Amazon, for the most part, has done a good job with their stuff. Like, I mean, we've talked about God, dude, what is the one with Jim Krasinski where he is the spy?
Jack Ryan, love that
Jack
show.
Ryan, all that stuff, all the Jack Ryan stuff. Because Harrison Ford was Jack Ryan once upon a time. Alec Baldwin, and
Chris
all of
Pine,
the Tom Clancy's, Chris
Ben
Pine, all
Affleck.
that. Exactly, you get what I'm saying, right? Most of them are good, right? So they've done good stuff. They've done Fallout. Fallout's fantastic. They know how to make this stuff. I just think Rings of Power is a fluke because they just put the wrong people to make Rings of Power.
You know what? You're right. You're right because honestly, out of everything I've seen with Amazon, end up loving except Rings of Power. That's the only outlier. And Rings of
Only
Power,
one I don't like.
I think they hit the panic button because they spent so much money with it that they, like you said, they literally just hired the team that did Wheel of Time. I think it's called. Like so
Exactly.
many people from there
They
were
just thought they
migrated
could do
to Rings of
exactly. They
Power.
thought that they can just have their bastardized version just get. I was like, you can't just undo this lore that's so appreciated and beloved. And that's exactly what they did. They took a gamble and it didn't pay off, and now they have to double down on it because now they can't retcon it because they spent so much on it. So you either have to find a way to make this enjoyable and not have some kind of hand-me-down Games of Thrones type of thing, right? Because that's really what it is, right? Like it's just drollness. It's like it's really Games of Thrones without the sex part of it. That's really what it is. Let's be real. And you
And
throw in Lord of the Rings
and
stuff
that's
into
not
it.
what Lord of the Rings is supposed to be.
No,
Not
it's
supposed
not.
to be Game of
It's not
Thrones.
because it's just a bunch of quibbling with politics and people fighting in back rooms and stuff. That's lowly lit scenes and everything, and they add Lord of the Rings lore thinking it works and it doesn't. And it's
Yeah.
true because you see the elves fight with each other. And it's like this is not a characterization of any
No.
of these characters at all. None. It's awful.
And why are the elves the dumbest characters in the show when they're supposed to be the wisest? Why are they doing some of the
The
dumbest things?
stark difference between how the characters are in the movie and the show is so great, and it's not like it's that much of a time difference. Like these, it's like they're acting like teenagers and they're not. They have
Yeah.
they have status in society. They're respected. They wouldn't have gotten there if they were acting on the whims that they're acting in the show and how it's portrayed.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Maybe it's like a few hundred years before the Lord of the Rings books. So they shouldn't be acting like that. These
Well,
elves
no,
live.
it's not even during the book. Like you got to think of it like the books. Because here's the thing, right? Tolkien wrote the index before he wrote the books, and the
Right.
index the lore was so amazing that he was convinced by his great friend you need to make books out of this. And that's
Was
exactly
it
what
C.S.
happened.
Lewis?
C.S. Lewis exactly wrote this.
Yeah.
Like, you got to write books on this. So, you know, the groundwork was already in place, right? And so Sauron is already making the ring. He made the ring, or he's tricking Celebrimbor to make the ring, and he's making the rings of power for everyone else and all that. So like this is exactly in line with how the first movie goes, right? Like right before the war, and then Isildur is like, "No, I'm going to keep it for myself," type of thing. So we're right in line with what the movies are now, right? And it's
Mm.
just it's so it's so bad. You know how like when episode 4 came out and you have the theatrical version and then you have like the release now and it's just completely different. Like you're going to need that type of change just to make it palatable now.
I mean, hopefully, I don't think you can do multiverse in Lord of the Rings. Maybe you can say this was a spell. Maybe you could say this was a spell that Morgoth was has put over Sauron to show him what could happen. And so Sauron wakes up from the spell, from the
That's a
vision, and then
that's a
picks
great
up.
cop out. And then Sauron kills his master, and you know, which is
Yeah,
what he does.
something where it's like, oh, this is how you could conquer, whatever. And he wakes up from the vision. And he's like, all right, I'm gonna do it the right way, because I don't know. Sauron is not
Meaning whole new
Sauron.
team. No, he's not. It's like it's
None of these
so.
characters. I mean, of course, I didn't watch the second season because hell no.
I didn't either.
But I heard that they were humanizing the orcs, saying, "Why are we being treated this way? We just want to like raise our orc children and be." And I'm like, you're playing identity politics with orcs. Orcs are tortured elves, through through crazy torture and dark magic. They're turned into orcs. All right,
They're not meant
all
to
they
be
want to do.
humanized. There is a
No.
the books and the movies did a great job showing who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. When you start mixing up the bad guys and making them feel for them just to add another lens to it, I'm like, you don't have to remake the wheel. The wheel's made, the path is made. You just got to go ahead and just continue hitting home runs that it was already set for you. They're getting thrown meatballs over the plate to do well, and they're just ruining it left and right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, yo,
It's a
Peter
shame.
Jackson every day had the books with him on set for reference.
He
These
changed
people
very
clearly didn't read
little
the
of it.
books.
Very little.
He really only changed it. The things he changed was for runtime. Because if you
Had
did
to.
everything in the books, they would be they would be
They'll
like
be
6 hours each or
well.
something.
Remember what he
10 hours.
said. He has 3 days worth of director cut material that he didn't release.
Jeez.
Three
I mean,
days.
he
I
released
believe it.
the extended versions, which were like 4 and change a piece, and he probably was like, you know what, this is enough. I can't. I
I
can't.
believe it because it took him almost a year and a half just to film these things. I believe that there's 3 days worth of film.
Yes. Yeah. Can you imagine that? Just oh my
And
gosh.
Peter Jackson's. I mean, look. Here's the thing. I mean, he's known for Lord of the Rings. He's done other stuff, dude. Like he's
Yeah.
proven to do this stuff.
The
Why
lovely
didn't
bones and stuff.
what King Kong, Skull Island,
King Kong. I love.
great movie.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
that.
So why didn't they bring him on? Did Amazon just want to say we could do it ourselves? We don't need the guy who did all this. Like, is that really what it was? I mean,
I think that's
obviously,
part of it, and I think they panicked, so they just hired a team that did a show that's kind of like that, a sword and shield show. Look at the team of the Wheel of Time, and let's just convert them over to Rings of Power so we can put something out. And because of the identity politics and the girl bossery, they thought they stood the moral high ground, so they kept renewing it. It just got renewed for season 3, and so they're keep putting out stuff. And the issue is not just that these people didn't read the books. The issue is the writing's just bad. Like the
it's
dialogue
more
is
than dialogue
bad.
writing. It's like the writing itself is bad. Everything about the writing,
Yes.
and I mean, the characters, you,
The pacing's
the good,
horrible.
the
Just
good guys aren't really interesting.
no, they're
Uh,
boring. They're
they're
stale.
boring.
Even
Yeah.
the bad guys are boring, man. like Sauron, like everybody
How,
saw
how
that twist coming a mile away. Like
how do you ruin such a great bad guy like Sauron?
I don't know, bro.
I mean,
Maybe you should ask.
he's pretty much like Satan, right? How do you ruin that? That's easy, right?
Yeah, he is Satan, like basically.
Pretty
The
much.
most beautiful angel,
The
who's
right
like F
the
you,
right hand person to God himself, you know what I mean? And he decides to do his own thing and rebel and cause
Right,
chaos and he's eternally
right.
damned. Why isn't there I mean, that's way more entertaining than any of this, personally. And
Yeah.
another thing, which I have an issue with in The Hobbit, Benedict Cumberbatch is Sauron. He had his Sauron's voice. Why didn't they have Benedict Cumberbatch in here as Sauron for continuity?
I think it's because he's too expensive. If you look at this
Too
show, The Rings of
expensive? What do you
Power,
mean? They
I
spent
think
$2
it's too
billion
expensive.
dollars to spend this just before they can make this movie, this show.
They're probably look at the show. There's no one really who's a big draw. Like no one who's really a big name in the show.
Also an issue.
Yeah, but think about it. The Lord of the Rings movies, they had a couple of big draws: Christopher Lee, Ian McKellen, but they
Sean
made
Bean was
stars out of
established.
Sean
Right?
Bean, True,
Hugo Weaving
Elijah
was
Wood was a
established.
child. Yeah, Sean Astin
That
and Elijah Wood were child actors.
there was people already established. Kate Blanchett was kind of starting right. Liv Tyler is starting, but Viggo Mortensen was already established. You had
Yeah,
established actors. It's okay
never mind. You're
with
right.
the
Yeah, you're
see.
right.
I already know. Have
Yeah,
a name.
I don't know, man. I'm,
He's not he's not like asking for like just have him in there. You need to have a draw. Like if you're going to have a bunch of no names, you need to have the villain spot on at least at a minimum. He would be
Maybe he read
perfect
the script, was like, "Fuck that."
because he's too
That's
good
one
of
thing
an
we're not
actor to
bringing
be
up.
in crap. Has he ever been in crap? No,
I can't say that he has.
no. He's been nominated for an Oscar how many times? You know, regardless of all the insanity that they have for their stuff. I mean,
He has really
guy
good
knows.
representation because I don't know of any flops he's been in. Even in the movies where the movie's okay, he's still great and he elevates the movie. So
Yeah,
yeah, I don't think he's
but he
been
was
in
the
anything
bad
bad.
guy in The Hobbit. I don't understand. What's the issue? Like, just hey, Bennett, come back for Sauron.
Yeah, he was
Easy.
Smaug and he was Sauron.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a money thing because there's no big actors, and it's almost like they looked up the social medias of these actors and was like, let's get the cheapest and the weirdest actors to be in the show who are going to propel our show with the morality clauses, with social justice war. I
You know
don't
how
know,
I am
bro.
with Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings as much as you like Star Wars, you know, so I kind of go on this all day. Speaking of Benedict Cumberbatch and Oscars, let's just talk about the Oscars quickly.
Oh, they happened.
And yeah, they happened. Well, not just that. Two of the voters, decided to speak their minds and actually list why they didn't vote for Ray Fiennes for one of the movies because they thought he won for Schindler's List, which he did not, which he should have,
Bro,
by the way, because we saw that
this
movie recently and we reviewed it. He should have won it, but he didn't. Nonsense. What's
this
up with
pissed me
this?
off. This pissed me off because um yeah, we had this on the agenda to talk about, and something else came up that I didn't add, which was some voters said they didn't vote for Dune because they didn't want to watch the second one, so they didn't watch it.
I saw that article too, by the way, because they said it was too boring.
Yeah, they said the first one was too boring, so they didn't want to sit through 3 hours of another one. So let me get
The
this right.
pacing of the second one was difficult, but I mean, they're still good. It's just
I
But
mean, to be fair,
it's
you're
not
in the
any.
minority about the second one. A lot of people really like the second one,
I
me
know it's
included.
not like I did. It's Here's the thing, right? I mean, when it comes to Dune, they're difficult books, right? Like
Yes,
you're weeding through something that's very difficult to really like get your hand. Like if you simplify it, because I think Dune as a whole has a lot going on,
it's very
and
dense.
there's a lot of backstory and there's a lot of grudges and things and a lot of character webs and mappings that you got to keep track of. It's very hard to follow unless you know the books well, right? So anyone who's just watching the movies for the first time without understanding what they are, I mean, you got to watch them a few times just to get the understanding of all of it.
Right. And with YouTube now, like it's cool to just go watch those videos that break down every Easter egg. They tell you the you can like watch these videos and they'll tell you Easter eggs and they'll tell you backstories of certain things. They'll tell you the words, what they mean and stuff. So you can get deep into this stuff. But yeah, those books are very dense and they're very how should I say this? They're not surface level. It's you gotta read between the lines. Like those books have a lot of inner dialogue and he Denis kind of cut all that stuff, but he it was very clever how he conveyed the information through like, Paul watching those videos on the Fremen and how the sign language too and stuff like that. It's very, very
No, it's
clever.
hard. Like what he did is like a lot of it's hard. It's just the thing is with this, right? I think it's BS that he didn't even get acknowledgement for it because you take this IP and then you take the books and then if you appreciate the books, you like the books, you see what he did in the movie. I think he did a great job with the adaptation for the movies, right? I don't know if he could have changed the second movie to make it any better based on how the books are. And that's hard to do, right? Like there's a lot to do. There's a lot to put in, and he had to really figure out what parts do I leave out, what parts do I leave in. And it's kind of tough with the continuity of the story. So the only way you do that is that you still have to have the main story go on in the movie
Mhm.
while having those secondary objectives, those secondary stories in the background, and however they're conveyed, right? And that means that there's a lot of characters on the screen or a lot of things going on at once, and that I don't know. That's not really like my kind of thing. Like I feel like when I watch a sci-fi movie, I kind of just want to enjoy it and just have something simple. But there's nothing simple about this story.
Yeah, there's nothing simple about Dune. It's like when I think of Dune, it's a literal politics.
It's
You know,
Foundation.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I like Foundation
yeah.
because Isaac Asimov is one of my favorite writers of all time, right? But it's very difficult to follow unless you know the books well. And I've read those books so many times, like I can follow the story, right? Maybe I need to do that with Dune more. I don't know.
So in a time where viewership of the Oscars and support of the Oscars is declining every year, so as of the board should be telling the voters not to fuck up. And the fact that you're not watching things because you're biased and you're not informed of certain people and so they're losing out on awards because of that.
Yeah, suspend him,
This is like the
yank their
biggest
vote away,
fumble.
yank
Yeah,
their
you should
yank
be
their
fired
voting
as voters.
privileges, something. But the
And
board's made
I
up of
haven't
people
seen
who
any
feel the
names
same
of
way,
these
right?
people. Huh?
The board's made up of people who feel this way, I'm sure. So where's the accountability?
Probably. And I just I'm like I don't understand why anyone would watch the Oscars after this. I really don't. There's
I
nothing
haven't
to
watched the
defend them.
Oscars in a while. I
I haven't
mean,
watched in a while either.
here's the thing. Like, I like the fact that Adrian Brody won. Brutalist was a good movie, very well done. You know, um, that's the thing, right? Like, they had some about Ray Fiennes not winning because he already won, but both those voters voted for Adrian Brody, who has already won because of The Pianist. So tell me how this makes
Make it make
sense.
sense. Make it make sense.
I mean, Adrian
Um,
Brody deserved it, right? So did Ray Fiennes, but don't just single out Ray Fiennes for it when you literally voted for someone who actually has one.
if I was Ray Fiennes, bro, I'd be putting up an uproar. If I was some of these
Nah, he doesn't care. You
actors,
know how these actors are, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's just a political thing. Like, if you don't campaign enough, if you don't eat, just like kiss their ass to such a level and, eat at the dinner table with them every night, you're not going to win. It's a whole political scheme.
that's true. That's true. I just think it's so dumb. Not to mention Amelia Perez won some awards, and critics and the audience, no one knows why this movie is getting propped up. People are calling it the worst movie ever. People and critics are saying
Oh,
this movie is like the
you're talking
worst.
about the sex work one, the sex worker one.
No, Amelia Perez one where the cartel
Oh,
leader has a sex change and becomes a woman to hide or something like that, or
you
with
had a
Zoe
lot of
Saldana.
yeah, you had a lot of questionable things. Like the best documentary that one was based on like things going on in like with Arabs and stuff, and it wasn't even true that what happened, and they won for best documentary still. And they're like fact checked. It's like, what are we doing? I mean,
There's a
documentaries now,
lot
you
of
already know
questionable
this.
stuff.
Half of the documentaries aren't even true,
Yeah, they're
and they're
bullshit.
just labeled.
Yeah, you know one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone's like, "Oh yeah, I know this topic because I watched the documentary." I just want to slap the shit out of them. A documentary is just a thesis paper in visual form. Shut your mouth.
Without it being peer edited, by the way.
Facts.
There's no
Facts.
peer editing. There is no one saying that just because you label it, it's like getting off scot free that this is facts without it being at all factual. You can say whatever you want, but just because you actually had something that's based on a real event and you can spin it, it just makes it true.
Yes, you just wanted to write a thesis paper, but you didn't want it to be edited, so you made it into a documentary because you know you can invoke some kind of emotional response. I, as an editor, know how I can manipulate the audience just by a few cuts and some music. So stop the bullshit. All right. So I hate that shit. But yeah, like I don't see this helping the Oscars at all. I honestly will look at people funny to say that they still watch the Oscars after this. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, how can
You
you? I
know,
mean, Hollywood's already lost and stuck in their bubble anyway. This is just an extra thing that they're so far removed from what the common consumer wants
right?
that, hey, look, they're dying. It is what it is. Like, this is what happens. Rome fell apart after 500 years. At some point, when you're on the top of the field or top of the industry, or if you're the monopoly or the main person in charge, stuff better comes along. And streaming has really invoked a reckoning with this.
Which is why the Golden Globes are rising in popularity while the Oscars are declining.
And
All
weren't the
right.
Golden Globes like, this winning the Special Olympics at one point? Like, who cares?
Yeah. Now it's flipped on its head because of, I would say, integrity. I
Well,
could
and
be
Golden
wrong.
Globes are a fan favorite stuff too. Like they have a lot of people who are actually like basic consumers who have says in this stuff too. So like that's a good
Oh,
thing
so
too.
they're actually listening to the real audience. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. All right. Now, now you made a good point about Dune with the Oscars. Because you didn't enjoy it as much as I did. But let me say this: from a technical aspect, let's take away the subjective parts. From a technical uh, aspect, with the directing, it was
Having a
so
stroke,
well
you
done.
good?
Yeah, I know, right? The directing was so well done. The sound design alone, the sound design and the score of the film, the fact that Hans Zimmer was not nominated on anything based on a technicality was some bullshit. The fact that none of the sound design was nominated was some bullshit. You know, Denis should have got Best Director, or the screenplay should have got Best Adaptation, because that is a thing.
Who won Best Director?
That I'm not sure.
Hold on. Sean Baker. He did Honora. Honora is the movie I was talking about with the sex worker.
Nora.
So he won 4 Oscars that evening, by the way.
Oh wow.
Yeah. The only other person to do that was Walt Disney. Wow, impressive. Yes. So, I mean, Bruce was good. Personally, I think he. But anyway, let's. We got other stuff to talk about. We could talk about this all night. It's a
Yeah.
broken system, right? We got a bunch of stiff heads voting for this without listening to the person who's actually watching these. You can tell a mile away when a movie is Oscar baiting material, right? It's just bait, like, oh, look how it is. Who actually in the right mind is going to go see half these movies in the movie theater? No one. All right, and they have to make something that's commercially viable, and they're not.
Mm. Well, to correct, Dune Part Two was nominated for some things at the Oscars, but it didn't win. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why. I think what you said holds a lot of merit. I'm starting to realize that the Oscars are not for the audience; it's for the artists. Um, because they, it seems like Dune was too popular to be nominated. I mean, to win anything. Um, like you said, they only want these movies no one's going to see to be
Bro, it's
nominated
broken.
or
The fact that AVN, which is the adult industry's Oscars, is more in tune with their audience than the Oscars are has enough for me. It's enough. It is what it is.
right. Right. I mean, back in the day, I stopped watching the Oscars to start watching the MTV Awards, movie
Oh
awards,
my god!
because it was like, yo, the Oscars. You know
Every
what?
other thing was Nick Cannon.
Yeah. Today marks today the day where I realized the Oscars are not for the audience; they are for the artists, not for the regular man.
You're welcome. I'm glad a regular man, a plebeian like myself, was able to convey this.
Yes, because I couldn't understand it. Now I understand. It's not for me, bro. Just like Star Wars is no longer for me.
It's okay.
Anyway.
Well, I got a good movie idea for us to do, but first it's going to be set in real events. So I was this is actually kind of interesting to me. Trump is set to visit Fort Knox and be the first president to visit Fort Knox to verify the gold reserve since FDR did it in 1943. My question is, why hasn't there been a heist movie with people stealing the gold from Fort Knox?
I wonder if the government has said no to that. You know how there's
Okay,
movies
yeah,
where they're excuse me, attacking the White House. Um, I think that you're allowed to do that because the White House is like the structural mascot of the government, whereas Fort Knox is like the real deal. Like, yo, this is where we keep our shit. So no
allegedly.
parodies or funny. Yeah, yeah, allegedly. No parodies or you can't have any information on the structure for the movie or nothing like that. Like, nah, don't even try. You know,
It's funny because a bit of Fort Knox, that's where the Army trains its tanker division, right?
jeez.
And my understanding was that there wasn't any gold in Fort Knox, but that's where all the exposed narcotics and drugs that they caught in gangs and cartels and stuff, they sent it to Fort Knox. And then they use it in sting operations and stuff. So that's where a lot of the government, when they're need a thing of coke, they get a requisition of it through Fort Knox. My understanding, but I can kind of. Here's the thing, right? So Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 10, I forget which one, when they had
Yeah.
that Las Vegas casino where they ripped it out of the building or whatever and they were flying it around. Dude, it was so realistic that the casinos on the strip all changed their security measures along with their vaults because they felt like someone can actually go ahead and do that.
Mm. Mm.
So just it's something similar, right?
Hmm.
But Fort Knox is supposed to be the most difficult place to get into. On top of like this, just it's insane with the security, right? So why not make a movie about something like that? Like I don't know if that's true or not. It's just fascinating me. Like it's like people haven't even thought about. Like you're willing. The thing is, you can steal the Declaration of Independence, but you can't steal gold out of Fort Knox.
I wonder if it's like the government's like, don't even fucking joke about that. Like, yeah, you could steal an old ass piece of paper. Yeah, you could pretend to break into the Pentagon. Yeah, you could pretend to blow up the CIA or the White House. But don't play with our fucking gold, man.
Or drugs.
Because we'll kill you. Or drugs. And I would even guess, I'm just speculating, I'm just making up bullshit. I would even guess that they keep like dirty secrets of foreign dignitaries and shit like that in Fort Knox. Like, they're like the dirt that they have on other
Oh yeah,
people
it's
and
the
corporations
little
in there.
black books, the little black books of the
Yeah.
blackmail.
Maybe that's the real gold. What is treasure if not like the most valuable thing for someone? It doesn't necessarily have to be a bar
We
of
did go off the
actual
gold
gold.
standard in the '70s because of Richard Nixon. And a lot of people feel like it's because we didn't have enough gold to back up the U.S. dollar value.
I believe it. When he did that, we. I think it was like, all right, we don't got enough gold, so you know what we're gonna do? We're just gonna, you know, destructuralize or whatever other countries and bully everybody to follow our dollar. If you got a problem with it, we'll kill you.
Yeah,
you
U.S.
know
World Reserve anyway. I mean, really, what it did was that it allowed the stock market to go to places that it's at now, right? Like the amount of
Hmm.
speculation without it being anything tangible to sell for it. Like $1 trillion companies. It's like, well, what do you have that actually is worth $1 trillion? Like, no one's got that. Like
Yeah.
I feel like Amazon's probably the closest thing because it's actually got physical items that it can sell. In its like warehouses. Like that makes sense because it's something tangible. But everything else is software based. It's like you don't have anything tangible. Like what do you
Nah.
have that's actually like that we can physically like touch type of thing. But I'm just curious. Maybe it's something we could think about research. That would be pretty cool. I'd like to see a heist movie about that.
I mean, you could research that. I'm not trying to get flagged by the government.
Why me?
Not like I'm sitting there like, hey, could I let me Google, can I break into Fort Knox, and then like the SWAT team breaks through my door and just like starts beating me with their nightsticks and shit, like fucking me up, throwing me in the back of a van. You don't see me for 2 weeks and I show up half of a man. Like I'm just a shell of what I used to be, you know?
All right. Well, what? Let me ask handy dandy AI real fast. Oh shit! You ready?
What?
There's three
What's this, sir?
movies that has said a heist on Fort Knox. Goldfinger, I completely forgot about that.
Oh,
Die
okay.
Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah, but that was the I remember that because I
Reserve.
recently just watched it. That was the New York branch, right? That's
Yeah,
not
New
the
York
Fort
Reserve.
Knox.
Or there's a movie called Let's Rob Fort Knox by Steve Hopsick.
Let me guess, they all got killed at
In
the
reality,
perimeter.
Fort Knox has never been successfully robbed. Its security measures are designed to prevent such attempts. Thank you, AI. I appreciate it. But Goldfinger, fascinating.
Yeah, but it's been years since it was.
1964. If let's put that in perspective, right? I mean, our parents were alive, but most people, parents our age, they weren't alive yet in '64.
Right.
So, all right, let's move on. So we can talk about let's talk about the animated movies accounted for majority of revenue in 24. I talked about this with you offline. I want your public remarks on this. So 24 was big, but it was big for animated movies. You look at Despicable Me 4, Kung Fu Panda 4, Inside Out 2, Moana 2, starting to sense a
Nothing but
theme.
sequels.
Yeah. And those guys, all of them were home runs. The live action movie that made the most was Deadpool and Wolverine movie. Everything else was animated in the top 10, by the way. It's very fascinating. So, do you think we're at a kind of like a standstill in terms of one? I mean, it seems like the animated industry, there's a lot of movies that don't seem to have a an agenda baked into its storytelling. That's why parents are okay to let their kids see it. And two, how do you fix this?
So, um, remind me what was the first question again?
So animated movies didn't have an agenda, right?
Hmm.
So like I mean, and parents are comfortable like how why are live action movies have this sense of agenda and all this stuff that people
Okay.
don't want in there, and then how do you fix it?
So, um, I think you fix it in the same way that Inside Out 2 fixed it. Inside Out 2 originally, now I haven't seen all of the movie, but originally it's been reported that the main girl, and one of her friends, close friends, were, it was either heavily hinted or suggested or overtly shown that they were in a romantic relationship.
Mm.
Midway through production, they were ordered to cut that out to make it look like a platonic friendship.
Shocking.
So I think that's how you fix it. I think you and I have both said this before multiple times. The way you fix this is to stop making movies off of checklists and start making movies off of good stories and good storytelling, and hire good storytellers to do their thing and let them do their thing.
Yeah.
Um, all those movies you listed off, all those animated movies, including Deadpool and Wolverine, which is not an animated movie, all had one thing in common: escapism. They were not
Tons of
trying to preach to you.
escapism. Tons of
They are not
escapism,
trying to
and
preach
they
to you.
catered to the audience. Deadpool versus Wolverine was just a fan grab, and that's exactly what you need. Why Disney I don't understand. Why Disney just can't do that with Star Wars doesn't make sense to me. Like they're just hell bent on making
Kathleen
everything
Kennedy.
gay. Just
Kathleen Kennedy.
yeah. So we know they have the capacity to do things the right way. Obviously,
Yes,
right?
they do. I
They've
mean, look
showed
at
it.
Deadpool, Wolverine. You know, Inside Out 2 is a Disney movie. Moana 2 is a Disney movie. The And Moana 2, another movie that was course corrected in midway production. It was supposed to be a TV show, a Disney Plus show. But Bob Iger was like, "Why are we putting this much money into a show when we're not going to recoup the money? Make this into a
No,
movie." And that was probably
make it
like the
into a
best,
movie and make $1.5 billion from it. It's simple.
to the point where they recouped their money after all those flops that they had beforehand. You know,
Well, they
so
recoup some of it because someone's got to carry
oh
Kathleen
yeah, yeah,
Kennedy's
yeah,
mistakes.
that's true. That's very true.
They have lots
Um,
of money they lost. Snow White themselves, I mean, Snow White's like exponential in terms of like the loss because
oh my
they made
god,
this years ago, like 3 years
I
ago, and it's
totally.
been shelved. And now they got to spend money on marketing again. So you're just mourning, and it's so in order for Snow White to even come back in the black, just to break even, it needs to make $650 million. There's no way in hell that
Which is
thing's
not
making
going to make.
650.
And I would even gamble that they got to make more than that because, like you said, it's been shelved for like 3 years, and I don't think they're
Interest
reporting on how much that
because what the
cost.
dollar was worth then is not what it's worth now.
Very, very true. Not to mention the reshoots and the VFX that they had to redo.
And the counseling they
They
had to
had to.
do with Rachel Zegler to keep her mouth shut so she doesn't say anything stupid ever again, which she still is, by the way. And I'm shocked that
Can I ask you a question that might be insensitive?
you're
Why
asking
is it
me.
that all? Why is it that all these Snow White live action adaptations always hire an actress who's very visually attractive and striking to be the ugly queen, and then the Snow White actress is not. ugly. She's just average compared to the evil queen actress. I'm looking at you, Snow White and the Huntsman or whatever, with Kristen Stewart as Snow White, who looks nothing like Snow White, and then Charlize Theron.
Kristen Stewart has one thing with Snow White, and that's the pale skin. That's the whole point because the Grimm brothers wrote them. And here's the thing. All right, let's just
But she
take a
didn't
couple
have
steps
hair
back.
black as night, which was in the
No.
trailer of that movie,
So
and she's rocking brown
Disney
hair.
made all of these dark poems and stories into something that was kid friendly, but they
Yeah,
had very strict descriptions of how these characters were, and Disney in the cartoons went with it, but live
yeah.
action just to change everything for whatever reason. But you're right, the villains are hot,
Well,
and
you know the reason,
well, we know the reason. Villains are hot. All right, it's just how it is,
right?
and I don't know why, but I like it. However, the
Especially
main
Snow White.
characters, yeah, main characters got to be hot too. Okay, this going on.
The Snow
Plus,
White live actions always fumble the bag for some reason.
here's the thing.
I don't
Here's
know.
the thing, dude. Like, if Rachel Zegler was actually like as attractive as like Gal Gadot, right? It wouldn't be as bad of what she's saying right now publicly because attractive people can get away with saying stupid stuff.
It
You
would
know
still be
this.
bad.
It would
It
be
would
bad, but it
maybe
won't
not
be
as bad.
nearly as bad. It won't be nearly as bad because then you can rebrand yourself. You're like, listen, I'm sorry. You know, I made some mistakes. It's like country music artists who say the N word on camera 3 times. They come back in 2 months and wear a backwards baseball cap with a jean jacket and people love them again. Like, you can rebrand yourself, right? However, she's just doubling down on the same thing and she's not even doing anything to change. Like, PR firms specialize in damage control and changing your appearance to make it seem like you're sorry and it's believable. And she's not doing any of that. She's just still stuck up. And she's not even pretty.
Well,
It's not even fun for me to even look at.
let me play devil's advocate. Elizabeth Banks, um, Brie Larson, both
Mm-hmm.
have done the same thing. They're attractive
Mm-hmm.
women, and they have been
Yeah.
in Hollywood jail.
Mm-hmm.
So
You know why?
maybe the
Because
issue is not that Rachel.
they refused to change. They refused to like double back. They didn't. None of it. That's the problem.
So their attraction didn't help them. So maybe it's not that they're not attractive enough. Maybe it's that Rachel Zegler was just too young and too inexperienced to be saying this. Like she doesn't have as much years in the game as like an
She,
Elizabeth Banks or a Brie
she's
Larson,
22 saying that stuff. I'm like, lady, you probably don't even
which
know
is
what you want in a
wild.
guy yet, right?
She
And you're
had like
saying this.
2 or 3 movies in the pocket before this. Why are you talking out of your neck, bro? Like you ain't an OG yet. All right. Brie Larson and Elizabeth Banks have been in the industry for decades. They could say, well, Brie Larson a decade. They could say what they want, and yeah, they're in Hollywood jail, but they're still making movies and they're still making money. Rachel Zegler is kind of like kryptonite right now. Nobody wants to touch her. You know, I don't know of any new project. Well, she had that one project, that 1999 project or whatever, that
Yeah.
Y2K project recently that no one saw, and I heard was okay. But yeah, like I don't know, bro. Like I think it's just because she didn't have enough rings on her belt, so to speak. And so people were like, "Yo, well, you haven't been in the game this long. Why are you talking like this?
The
You
Elizabeth
haven't
Banks
earned it."
thing, you were talking about like how she said that about the Steven Spielberg thing, right? Is that what you're talking about?
I was talking about all this shit she was talking during the Charlie's Angels reboot that she directed and wrote. You
Oh,
know, she
okay.
she was talking wild shit,
Here's the
and
thing,
that's not the only
Elizabeth
time too.
Banks. No, she said stuff in the past, right? So like, I don't know if it's a direct apples comparison, and
Hmm.
you get see the thing is attraction helps you. It doesn't completely protect you and shields you. It just allows you to rebound quicker. That's all
Yeah,
it does. It gives you an opportunity for you to fix your things a little easier, right? And people are like, "Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. You deserve an apology. You know, like you deserve an opportunity to at least apologize, right? You deserve us to like accept it or whatever it is, you know." Rachel's got a lot of she's got to figure out some stuff, right? Like if she ever wants to get employed again, but if you're going to burn your bridge with Disney, as a lot of people want to get into it, and you're in from the first go round, I wouldn't want to do that. It's not worth it, right?
Well, they're trying to fix her image. I mean, her job after Snow White was a Broadway of Romeo and Juliet. That's the most submissive, female in in all of fiction, right? She kills herself after Romeo kills him. I mean, Romeo dies. So it's like, all right, I see what you're trying to do. I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to fix your image. You're being very, very quiet, and your next job is like, oh, I'm going to play a chick who kills
But
herself
she's not
out of
quiet
love for
anymore.
her
She's
man.
talking again.
Oh, she is?
Yes.
Well, I mean, damn, like, are you that dumb? Like, again, you're 23, 24, you don't have enough rings on your belt, you haven't been in the game that long enough. Bro, like, shut your mouth. Not to mention, I heard this is a rumor. I don't know if it's true. She was talking out of her mouth about some Israel shit and Palestine shit,
I know.
and Gal Gadot is Israeli, and she wasn't messing with her. After that, that's why it seemed like there was tension between them during the press tour for
I
Snow
mean,
White.
just know your audience. Guys, ugh. I just feel like Hollywood's new thing now is to overcompensate for the fact that there's a ton of Jews in Hollywood, that you're just going to have to go ahead and shit on Israel and shit on all Jews just to shield the fact that there's tons of Jews in Hollywood. I feel like that's where it's at, and you just have a ton of people just going along with it because that's the thing now, right? But it's listen, Rachel,
Zach,
your co-star is Jewish. The least you can do is not talk about it in a public setting, right? Because
right?
she's big, right? She's done a lot of stuff, regardless of how good she is as an actress.
She's horrible,
She,
but
she's done a lot, right? Wonder
yeah, Gal
Woman's a
Gadot
pretty
is not a
big.
good actress, but she's cute.
Well, never claimed, but she's done Wonder Woman. That's a big IP, right? So she's in all the
Yes,
DC stuff. That makes a ton of money, right?
Fast and Furious stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So she's done a couple franchises to where she's big. So if you look at the movie as because I don't know everyone that's in the movie, but you see her, she's probably the draw for people to see this, right?
Oh, 100%, 100%.
So why would you want to stir the pot with someone that's going to be the main, the main ticket provider on this?
I don't know,
Because
man.
you
Like you
got to look
said,
at it. You got to look at it from her point of view, right? Because Gal Gadot's very supportive of Israel, Jewish people, and everything, and it's going based on what she said publicly, and that's why I said what I said, because that's what she says. So if you feel different about it, just shut up. You don't. It's not a. It's not equal. It's not like it's her and you're just as big as she is. Maybe that's something that Disney will tolerate, but she's not. She's a minnow in an ocean, you know.
true, true. You might be Snow White, but you're not bringing the money in. You might be
No,
the main character, but you're not bringing the money in. All right, just calm down. All right, calm down. And you probably don't know shit about that situation anyway. Gal Gadot,
no.
who's from Israel, definitely knows more than you about that situation.
And
Let's
she was
keep
in
it a
the
buck.
IDF too. Just want to put that out there. So you know.
And yeah, that's what I meant to say. And you said know your audience, Rachel Zegler. Know your movie history and know who's writing your checks, because Jews built Hollywood. It's just a fact. It's
The
just a fact.
company. Hello.
Yeah,
The company that's
Jews built
employed.
Hollywood, and Jews built that company. All right, it's the only way they could make money at the time. All right,
It's
they
true.
weren't allowed to be in certain areas, so what do? They built an industry. It's called Hollywood. Shut your mouth.
And
So,
radio.
and yeah, and radio, and most of those patriotic songs and Christmas songs that we sing
Jews.
about America and
Yeah.
Christmas, all written by Jews. All right,
It's crazy, right?
all written.
I
No one's more patriotic than Jews. Let's be real. Let's
But
be
don't, but
real.
look, you simplify it, right? But there's a lot of nuance with the Israel and Palestine thing, and I feel like it's
Yes,
kind of bled over to that all Jews feel a certain way about Israel. And when someone says something like that, when you have an industry that's majority Jewish in this sense, like you got to just be careful. Like it's not like you're going to go into you know you're not going to go into Russia and start talking shit about Putin. That's not something you do. You just need to be socially aware of your surroundings and what you're doing, right? That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
you're not gonna go into a black church while they're praising God and you sit down in the middle of the pew and be like, you know what the problem with black people is? No, you're not gonna say that because
Just scream the N word. That's I mean, so
as
you just
religious as they are, they will whoop your ass, all right?
I just
And they will ask for forgiveness while they're doing it. Right?
But young Hollywood is all like this, though. They think that they're entitled to say whatever they need without putting in the work for it. That's the problem, right? You're like, you say whatever you
Yes.
want. Like, man, like at least put a couple $1 billion movies in your resume first before you start talking shit about Jews. So I'm saying in
Yeah.
Hollywood, that's it.
You got basically what Zach is saying. You have no juice. You have no juice. All right. You are nobody. You are nothing. You are not valuable. All right. Who are you? Okay. Who are you to say this shit? All right. Shut the fuck
So
up.
do you think this
Sorry.
movie? So do you think she's done after this? You think she's? Oh, actually, no, she is done. She was fired and she's suing Disney right now. Fun fact.
Really? Rachel Zegler.
Suing Disney and Paramount after being fired from future projects for it.
You're dumb. So let me guess. She is suing them under the pretense of freedom of speech and the right to believe what she wants to believe and
I
voice her
mean,
opinion.
this is the great thing about this country. You can say whatever you want. If you want to scream the most crazy profanity or racial slur, do it. But it's not guaranteed that some black person or someone's not going to hear that and just kill you in the street because you say something like that. Just all I'm saying.
Oh snap! She is.
She
Why hasn't
is
this gotten big of a headline?
because Disney's still trying to make money from this movie while they're at odds with each other. Like you can't you can't
That is
have two
so
exist
true.
at the same time. Like the reason why Scarlett Johansson and them were able to get away with it because it was during COVID and it was a little different, right? In terms of
And
theatrical,
Disney literally breached the contract. So
they did right.
Scarlett was right
So
in that.
she was
So,
so
but Rachel, bro, like for example, I once worked at a car dealership. I think it was Toyota at the time, and one of the mechanics said on his Facebook, "Fuck Toyota." Got fired the next day. You can't curse out like your employer. They're like, if Toyota is looking at a mechanic, looking at his social media, you think Disney isn't watching every interview you do? Like you can't get hired at a job and just say whatever you want. All right, I'm cussing a lot tonight. You can't say whatever you want. Do what like you can't get hired as a teacher and then go on OnlyFans and start showing your ass and shit. Like you're going to get fired. Like there's certain things you can't do with certain jobs. All right,
so
let's keep it a buck.
before we move, I have one thing I want to ask you. So Christian Bale's interested in playing a Star Wars part. And reportedly, he's going to be in this movie called Dark Apprentice, which is inspired by the Jedi Academy trilogy from Star Wars Legends.
So what I interpreted from that was that Christian Bale loves Star Wars and wants to be in the Star Wars movies, but he sees what Kathleen Kennedy is doing to Star Wars. So he said, you know what, I'll go over across the street where someone's making something like Star Wars to get as close to it as I can without losing my soul.
Yes,
Basically, that's what you're telling me. It's like, yes.
that's exactly
Yeah.
what it sounds like to me.
That's what it sounds like to me. Same thing with Keanu Reeves. It seems like every year, oh, Disney's in talks with Keanu Reeves to star in a Star Wars film. And for whatever reason, he always has scheduling conflicts. You know,
I mean,
he
him playing
turned them
Darth
down for
Revan,
Sonic
him
3.
playing Darth Revan, which is what I saw, was that would be pretty badass. Not gonna lie,
It would
but
be
he's
with a
way too old.
different team behind it. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's way too old. Just like when people fan cast him for Wolverine, I'm like, the dude is way too old, and he already shows that he doesn't want to get jacked for roles. He
he
wants to
looks
stay at
great for 61. Like he looks fantastic,
yeah.
but like you don't need to do this stuff anymore. Now, Tom Hardy wants to be a bad guy in a Star Wars movie, though. He said that.
But does he want to do it with this team of Star Wars people? I don't think so. Because if Tom Hardy really wanted to be in a Star Wars movie, he
He
would
would
be.
be in the Star Wars. Yeah,
You feel me? Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
he's like
yeah.
the most sought after actor in Hollywood right now. Ryan Gosling wants to be in a Star Wars movie, and right now he's talking about it. He's in negotiations, so he really doesn't care about the regime.
Dude, he would be
Everybody else
perfect as
does.
like a smuggler or like a Han Solo type of guy. He would be perfect for that.
Yes, yes, but he's probably going to be, you know, the hot
Don't say
shot
it.
guy who the main girl who's probably Ray has to teach him a lesson
Who
and
happens to be
humility
gay.
and apparently Luke Skywalker's gay too, so everybody's gay in Star Wars. I don't know.
All right.
Who cares? I don't care. Why is this a story element? When did sexuality become a story element? It's not. It shouldn't be. Your character as a human being, well, the character of the character should be the story.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird people are getting hired for their sexuality. It's weird people are making movies about their sexuality. Like, I don't know. Your sexuality is not the only thing about you. That's what Disney doesn't get. It's funny how Disney was more inclusive, before they started doing all
They
this
forcing it. Yeah,
inclusivity
they
shit.
just it was just because meritocracy won and it was just happened to be diverse naturally. Now it's I don't even know what you want to call it now.
I mean, like, I was watching Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet the other day. Then I realized, oh snap, there's like no white princesses. Most of them are all like multicultural. Like there's like maybe two white princesses, two or three. Snow White, Cinderella, and that Celtic chick from that movie
Oh,
Brave. I think
Brave.
that's it. I think that's it. All of them are all. Everybody else is like Asian, Black, Indian. Everybody's something different. So,
Have a
but
have a have a Chow Fang princess.
Chow Fang Princess. Oh yeah, Mulan.
There you
Mulan,
go.
baby. But yeah, like I don't know. I don't know. We got to wrap this up. So, what's the moral of the story, man? Moral of the story is Hollywood's dying. Hollywood's eating itself.
You can
I
smell
saw
it
a
from
movie
here, or I
recently.
can smell it from here anyway.
I saw a live action movie recently, and yeah, Hollywood's dying.
Oh,
That being said, I'm going to see Mickey 17 next. I'm going to
yes.
see Novocaine next.
Mickey
I'm trying to
17 for
support
sure.
those B level movies that only cost a few $1 million to make. I
And they're
watched
like
Love
always
Hurts.
Korean, always made by Koreans.
Oh no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like Love Hurts and Novocaine, which are like just little action movies that
Yeah.
cost a few $1 million to make. We got to bring those back. Those are what
Yes.
used to bring revenue to the movie theaters. Date night movie type of stuff.
I love date
So I'm
night
going to see
movies. They don't exist
Novocaine.
anymore.
Nah, they do on Netflix and streaming services, but not in the theater. But they're coming
Yeah.
back. Love Hurts came out and it wasn't really good, but it was entertaining. And Novocaine looks like it's going to be a fun little movie to watch in theaters. So excuse me, looking forward to that. But yeah, man, I hope live action movies make a comeback because dear God, this whew, it's rough out there, man. It
Yeah.
is rough. But yeah, my nomads. Hope you learned something. If you didn't, hey, it is what it is. Just remember, the Oscars aren't for you, so stop watching them. Watch the Golden Globes. Peace. Be creative. Peace.